Big Iron is the Season 2 finale of Knight Rider, which also means that it is the Season 2 finale in our Knotted Director's Cut commentary series. I don't know about you, but I always enjoyed a good season-ending cliffhanger. You know, the ones that make you wait all summer for a resolution. Knight Rider never really had anything like that, but I think our commentary series should. So, let's see. I think it should go something like this. Will the Knight Rider historians successfully analyze Big Iron? Does the White Wire make another appearance? How many times will they ask you to subscribe to this channel? Are they going to get cut off by their very own opening theme song mid-sentence? Production 57804, Big Iron. This episode had the working title of Amber Waves. It was written by Julie Friedgren, directed by Bernard L. Kowalski. This episode originally aired on NBC Sunday night 8 p.m. on May 27th, 1984. It was the Season 2 finale. The episode was filmed, however, way back in June of 1983, June 13th through the 21st to be specific. It was the 25th episode to be produced, but the 42nd to air. This episode was actually filmed between Merchants of Death and Brother's Keeper way back at the beginning of Season 2. It was one of the first Season 2 episodes filmed. And because of that, you're going to see a lot of things that have evolved over Season 2, which are now kind of reverted back, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The episode synopsis reads as follows. Michael helps out a construction company owner when his equipment is stolen. Now, we had a chance to talk to the writer of the script, Julie Friedgren, many years ago. And specifically, we asked her about how this episode came to be. And she told us a really cool story. So back in the late 70s, early 80s, she was writing spec scripts and sending them out to different productions, hoping that someone would buy a script. Well, she sent a script to Magnum PI, and because of that, she met Joel Rogeson. Now, Joel Rogeson might sound familiar to you. He would later become a producer on Knight Rider. So she sent this script to Joel Rogeson. Joel read the script for Magnum PI, loved it, and basically said, hey, you have anything else like this, always send it to me first. So Julie didn't forget that, so she became friends with Joel. Joel, meanwhile, had read a story in a newspaper about men who were stealing heavy construction equipment from job sites. Sound familiar? So with Julie's help, she ended up writing this script. And she said that Joel always had this fascination when the show was on the air, that he always wanted to see KITT going up against big earth movers, right? So that's how kind of the script came to be. And Julie had such a close working relationship with Joel that she ended up giving up a trip to Brazil to write this episode. So, all right, with all that said, let's go ahead and dig in, shall we? We open with Joe Glover, who is the security guard for Sanderson Construction Company, and he's doing his nightly patrols and runs across this truck being stolen. So, taking a closer look, this is a truck we've seen before in Knight Rider. No, it's not Goliath. This is actually the BJ and the Bear Kenworth, I believe. If you look at it closely, you can even see the outline of the red and the white on the front here. Now, we saw this truck from the backside in Inside Out in Season 1. I believe we also saw it in the background in Mouth of the Snake a couple episodes earlier. But what's interesting here, and it should be noted, is this the BJ and the Bear trailer too? It might be. I'm not as familiar with that, but it certainly could be. So we see the scene, and then it cuts to Joe Glover. He's shooting his gun in the sky. And when he does that, take a look. Now we're at a GMC Astro, right? That's not... You can clearly see the difference there. That's the Kenworth. There's the GMC Astro. And when we zoom in a little further, we get an even better look. This is actually one of the GMC Astros that's part of Universal Studios' transportation fleet at the time. They had a number of these. 6 of them, perhaps, I think. And you can clearly see the paint scheme here, the red and the orange, the Comtron colors, you know, as we say from the pilot. And this is the same truck we saw back in Inside Out, again, oddly enough, and Night Moves, and we'll see this truck a number of times throughout the series. But all right, so I bring up this screenshot for a couple reasons. First of all, notice how Michael is not wearing a black leather jacket. This is the only episode in the entire series where David Hasselhoff does not wear his black leather jacket in the entire episode. Just, you know, out of curiosity, we asked the writer, Julie, about that specific detail, if that was meant to be that way or not. And she said no, she had no idea about that. That wasn't in the script. It was just happened to be, for whatever reason, he didn't wear a black leather jacket in this episode. The other thing I wanted to point out is this is the hero car, right? And remember what I was saying about a lot of the advances that they made throughout season 2 were kind of reverted because this episode was filmed so early in season 2? Well, here's a prime example. So the hero car, by the end of season 2, had overhead console buttons. This hole where the seatbelt retractor goes in stock Trans Ams was fixed. But now we've reverted back, right? So we just have a blank panel here. We have a cutout here. And we'll see that a couple other times, which I'll point out. All right, so Michael is arriving at his hotel. This is actually the Panorama Hotel on Sepulveda Boulevard near Los Angeles. And it is still there today. So if we were to back up a few seconds, and I don't have a screenshot of this, we see a lady diving into a pool right off here off to the left. So if we look at it from overhead, we can actually see the outline of where the pool used to be. It's now filled in and they have grass planted there, but that's where the pool used to be. Michael's hotel room was down here somewhere. And if we look at it on street view, so there it is. Let's move forward a little bit. Maybe one more. You can see it's still called the Panorama Hotel. And it's got a fence up. I guess they're doing some renovation. This was back in January of 2021 that this street view was taken. But right through here and then right over here is where this was all filmed. So all still there today. You can go visit. Maybe you can stay in Michael Knight's room. All right, so then we have Michael pulling up to the Sanderson construction site. And just like what I was saying before, we've got a reversion here of the hero car. So partway through season 2, the hero car got a brand new dashboard. But this is still the original Michael Chaffee designed dash-on-dash dashboard. And what I mean by that, for those of you who aren't familiar, is we have the stock Trans Am dashboard under here with the speaker covers. And then Michael Chaffee's fiberglass dash didn't cover the whole dashboard. You can see the line right here, and it just screwed into the stock dashboard. They would change this partway through season 2 to a whole new dashboard where the piece covered the entire top to give it a more finished look. But again, because we're filming so early in season 2 in this episode, we've gone back to this version of the dash. Knight Rider's use of stock footage continues here. This is actually a scene from Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death that they reused just as a driving scene. You can see the hero car still has the Michael Chaffee style overhead console, and when he drives by, these are the rocks where Liberty Cox is supposedly behind and getting ready to be blown up. Michael and Kit arrive at Tully's restaurant, and this, believe it or not, is only a couple blocks away from the Panorama Hotel, which we just showed you. So if you take a look in the background, we've got this Uniroyal discount tire building, single story. And let's take a look at it today, see if any of it's still there. And yes, it still is, except they added a second floor, right? But if we turn over here, here is Tully's, still there today. So let's move forward a little bit here. So this is, trying to see what the name of this restaurant is. Oh, Country Folks Restaurant is Tully's right there. So let's go back to our screenshots. So there's the door, Tully's Cocktails, and if we go over here, so there's the door, and obviously they've changed out the stone for brick right there. And I must admit, I made a mistake way back on our Mouth of the Snake episode synopsis. I was talking about that the hotel that Joanna stayed at had been torn down. That is not the case. I was in the completely wrong area. Take a look at this. This is Tully's restaurant right here. Look at this. Right beside it, here's the Mouth of the Snake Hotel. Right there. Isn't that cool? The Travel Inn. So, even Knight Rider historians make mistakes. So now we move inside Tully's, and while we don't see his face, we do get a cameo right here of Harold Hal Frizzle, who we've mentioned many times before. He's been a background character in a number of episodes. He was part of the Knight Rider crew, and you can tell by his hair, that's him right there sitting at the table. And this little comic relief piece with the meter maid also takes place in front of Tully's, but we get this other view, and just for giggles, let's take a look at this. So in the background, we've got this Daco Shells company. They sell pickup bed shells, right? How about this? They're still in business. Nearly 40 years later, still selling shells. How about that? So, and we also see this is the left-hand blind drive car. And if you look closely on the seat, you can actually see, it looks like a jacket sleeve right there. Because if you remember in this scene, the car does move forward a little bit, right? So we get this better look. This is still the left-hand blind drive car. We see the sun visor over here. And then this view, you can actually see the face of the driver right there. Look at that. It's kind of eerie. It's like a ghost figure. And of course, the fog light grills are back, right? Because we've gone back to that time. All right, and now we are in the insert car, right? So we can see a few differences from the hero car inside at this point in the series. So we've got the chrome coat hooks. Instead of the hole here where we have in the hero car, we actually have the trim piece. And we still have the holes here for where the factory sun visor went. And if you look, the way Michael's holding his hands, he's not holding a gull wing, he's actually holding a small stunt wheel, which is consistent with the wheel this car had at this point in the series. Michael now pulls into the New Old Construction Company, and a couple things to note here. First of all, this location is the same location they filmed in for Mouth of the Snake, right? You remember the scene where David Dalton helps Michael escape certain death, and David runs and jumps over KITT and does all that stuff. This is the exact same location. It's just filmed from a different angle. The other thing to point out is if you look in the background here, look at the spectators here watching them film Knight Rider, even though there's a wall here. There you go. There's a better look. Look at all those people back there. Close-up of the hero car again. And you can see one of the reasons they changed out the dashboard is because this edge was always sticking up. You can see here they have gaffer's tape covering it. And that's, they just wanted a cleaner look for the car. And for those of you just really hoping for another white wire appearance since we've reverted back, I hate to tell you, I don't think there are any. Look at that. That headliner is covered up there pretty well. So I don't think we get a white wire, and I'm not sure. We might have seen our last white wire because starting with the next episode, season 3, we have a completely new hero car. So, but you never know. Maybe it'll surprise us. Alrighty, let's talk about this car. In one of the most glaring errors in this episode, KITT suddenly reverts to a stock Trans Am with a dummy inside. What you're looking at is one of the train wreck cars. So again, we've reverted back to the beginning of season 2. I know I keep saying that. But during the early part of season 2, the show had an abundance of extra cars because of the train derailment. The way it appears as season 2 progressed, a lot of those cars were destroyed. So I think they went through a lot of their train wreck cars early in the second season. And this is one of them. This is a 1983 model. We know that because we can see 1983 seats in here. These were 1 year only style seats. 1984 had headrest seats, but they were different. And also, this episode was filmed in June of 83, so the 84s weren't out yet. So this is a 1983 model with T-tops. And for those of you curious, they actually used 5 cars in this episode. They used the hero car, the insert car, the left-hand blind drive car, all 3 of which we've already covered. They used this car you see here just for this scene. And then they also used another 83 car just as a general stunt car, a hardtop car. And that was it. So they had 5 cars for this episode, but this car was pretty much there just to be trashed. So my guess is, I don't think this car had been used in previous episodes. My guess is this was one of the more badly damaged train wreck cars, maybe mechanically or body-wise, and you just don't see it from this angle. But they were just trying to get rid of it, so they just shoved it off a cliff. So if we move forward here, we can see they're getting ready to push it. And then, of course, it turns to a Sessoms and Slagle model, right? So this is the model. Pretty good model, too. And then we come back here, and now we're back to the 83 Trans Am. And if we look at it closely, you can see the windshield, the A-pillar has caved in, the roof's caved in. We've got T-tops busted out, the spoiler's fallen off. So it seems such a waste of a good car, but again, it's a train wreck car. They were destined to be destroyed. Yeah, look at that. All right, so let's talk about the trajectory guide. So in this episode, Michael calls this April's new gadget, right? But we had seen the trajectory guide before. We saw it in Blind Spot. And that's, again, because this episode was filmed before Blind Spot. So this was supposed to air earlier in the season. We don't know why it didn't. But trajectory guide was supposed to be all new. There's actually a scene in the script that has April explaining the trajectory guide system to Michael. She says, "I've also adapted a trajectory guide to KITT's turbo boost system. By adjusting the angle here, you should be able to launch him at any angle within a 90-degree arc. This is a prototype designed for normal application only, so don't get any ideas." Of course, alluding to the fact that he needs it while he's buried underground. So oddly enough, it's too bad that scene was cut, and actually April doesn't even appear in the episode, but that explains a little bit of the backstory of the trajectory guide here. Now, the trajectory guide is not one of those one episode and done, like the high traction drop downs or hydraulic lift and rapid cycle. So we would see trajectory guide on and off throughout the rest of the series. In fact, all the way through the end of season 4 and Redemption of a Champion, we see trajectory guide. And then we have this whole scene where Michael and KITT are talking. KITT says he only has 5 minutes of air. In the original script, it actually had them as having an hour of air plus 4 hours of reserve air. But I guess they changed that to, build the suspense a little bit. My favorite scene, Michael screaming, "All right!" All right, so maybe I lied. Is that the white wire right there? Is it? What do you guys think? I don't know. Is it the white wire or is it just some adhesive? I think we should pretend it's the white wire, especially because this might be the last time we see it. White wire alert. Something else we see in this episode that was early season 2 only and not later in season 2 is the white pursuit light. So when KITT got his new dashboard, this changed from white to red, but because we're early in the season now, we're back to white. This is Alex Kubik, and he returns. We saw him in as the bad guy in Just My Bill, but he returns in this episode. All right, and there's a better look right there at Hal Frizzle, right there, standing in the background watching. And Alex Kubik has now turned into Jack Gill, getting ready to get hit by a chair. And then we move forward, and we're back at Sanderson's home, and we've got our red Camaro making another appearance, which, that car kind of ceased being seen midway through season 2, but it's back right here. All right, so now Michael traces them to Vance Burke's house, and this is at the corner of Begonias Lane and Corrales Place in Canyon Country. So here's then. There's now. So this is Vance Burke's house now. Look in the background here. You see this house with this dormer, or not the dormer, with this vent. There it is back then. So pretty much the same. And while we're on filming locations, this is the Sanderson home. This is still also in Canyon Country. You can't really get a great look at it here, but that's the house. And then the background, we have the barn. These other two buildings you see back here, the barn and the garage, appear to be back here. But this is supposedly the house. So another early season 2 rarity, I guess, is the fact that in this brief scene, Kit actually uses his pop-up headlights, right? In season 1, we saw a lot of the pop-up headlights. But actually, there was a memo that came out in the official Writer's Bible that came out in season 2 that specifically said we should use Kit's fog lights and not his headlights, just because it gives the car a more aerodynamic look to use the fog lights and not the headlights. But they were still working through that at the beginning of season 2, and that's why you see the fog lights open here. But really, if you think about it, throughout the rest of the series, we don't really see the fog lights open, or the headlights open. We only see the fog lights. And here's one of Universal Studios' other GMC Astros, not the one we saw at the beginning, but this is one of their other ones, part of their transportation fleet there. There's the red Camaro again. And then we have Vance Burke, and he's here in his blue SUV. We've mentioned this before. This is the same SUV we've seen in a number of episodes. The one that comes to mind the most is in the Topaz Connection. It was orange back then, and that's the one used in the climax. But if you look here, you can even still see some of the orange in there. It was also used in Nobody Does It Better, for the climax in that episode as well. And I love this scene, how they clearly, I don't know what they put down here. It almost looks like Crisco or something, but they legitimately, you watch the scene, they legitimately slicked this up. I mean, it wasn't just wet and people were skidding around. You watch these cars spin around and it was slick. All right, and then we have Vance Burke lookalike here getting ready to get pounded. And with that not only concludes Big Iron, but it concludes season 2. And not just of Knight Rider, but season 2 of our episode commentaries. You know, Big Iron is the 42nd episode, and there were 84 episodes of Knight Rider produced. We are officially halfway through the series with our episode commentaries. Should we continue? Well, of course. We're not going to stop here, right? So, coming soon, season 3, Night of the Drones, episode commentary, and there's a lot to talk about with that episode. As always, thanks for spending your time with us. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peake himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right, since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well. You know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peak himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well, you know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.